Table Football Monthly? Don't mind if I do.
Table Football Monthly. On the ball from Caston to Subbuteo. Table Football Monthly. Pick the team 'cause we're set up and we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go.
Hello, and welcome to our 5th lockdown special. I hope this finds you in good health and coping with all the current weirdness. We've got a lot to get through on this edition, starting with some unfinished business from our last show. You may recall I demonstrated various player types in the lightweight and heavyweight department, and one of those was the Zeugo heavyweights. Scott Smiley dropped me an email and said, Keith, looked at the Zeugo heavyweights, you never quite got round to demonstrating whether or not those players can spin. So Scott will deal with that for you in just a moment. A large part of my emails in recent times have been from people saying they've noticed the resurrection of interest in Subbuteo of late and want to get back into the game. And what is the best way to do so? So today we're looking at 3 starter sets from Zeugo, Astrobase and Subbuteo, but also looking at whether or not you can create your own starter set from the various internet sites. And we have a brand new competition for you. So the only place to start is with a draw to see which one of you will win this Astrobase heavyweight traditional game. Okay, it's draw time. You may have noticed I'm joined by my son Alexander, who is stepping in for the gorgeous Danielle.
I'm not doing a very good job, am I?
It just about works. Yeah. So, wasn't last month, it was last week. You'll remember we had a competition question set by Paul Lloyd, and we had a record-winning number of correct entries, which was 122.
Wow.
So, I decided I would try and set you a much tougher question. So let's remind ourselves of the question first. I laid out these 5 teams and asked you to tell me which was the 6th. So Chelsea in their yellow-socked FA Cup winning replay strip of 1970, followed by Arsenal in their away strip for their double winning FA Cup win in 1971. Leeds, who beat Arsenal in the centenary FA Cup final in 72. Then giant killing Sunderland beat Leeds in 73. Liverpool won a fairly one-sided FA Cup final in 74. And so we are looking for the 1975 FA Cup winners, who were of course West Ham, who beat the star-studded 2nd Division Fulham side with Bobby Moore in it. So 127 of you sent in a correct answer.
Wow.
Beating the record set in only our last episode, and I thought you were going to struggle with it. So we're going to do the draw now. This is the way it works.
Yep.
Here is a list of all of you that are in this tin. I'm not going to leave it on screen for long, but you can hit pause to check that you're on it. And there you all are. 127
Wow.
correct answers. Now I know briefly from writing them all out that John Ellis is in there, a previous winner. Glenn Springate is in here, a previous winner. Tracy Wake is in here, who opened the programme this time round. She's a previous winner. So, Dave Croucher is also in, who so far is our only 2 times winner. We don't need Dave to get a hat trick.
It'd be rubbish, wouldn't it? They think he's bribing us or something. That'd be terrible.
Right, we're going to put this back in there. Now, Alexander, as this is your debut,
Yeah.
open the door. Have a feel in without looking, and then read out the winner. Before you do that, let's just remind you the winner will be walking off with our Astrobase heavyweight traditional game set. And enough sarcasm from you. You can tell he's not into table football.
I know.
Right,
I'm trying at least.
this is it. Go.
Here we go.
No looking. Have a good rummage. Make sure you only pull out one.
Oh, overstep the mark. There we
Have
go.
a good rummage, deep. Only pull out one.
And I have got one.
Don't be Dave Croucher again.
Who is it? It is Simon Lewis.
Simon Lewis, you are this week's winner. Congratulations! Congratulations, Simon. I will be in touch to get hold of your home address, and this will be on its way to you as soon as possible. Now, one thing a lot of you did say is that you enjoyed the format of the questions set in the last program. So we're going to do something similar today. Not exactly the same, but something similar. Not that you're going to get it, are you?
No, I'm going to go play on my computer and leave you to your room full of plastic. And on that note, goodbye.
Room full of plastic? I'm going to get a DNA test done. Those of you who saw our last edition will recall that I set up 5 tables to demonstrate different Subbuteo player types and their derivatives, and one of those was the Zeugo heavyweight. I got an email shortly after that edition from Scott Smiley saying that, yep, saw the piece, but you didn't demonstrate whether or not Zeugo players could spin, because in Scott's view, that's fairly difficult. So Scott, let's have a look and see if we can find an answer for you. Well, the answer is, as you can see, that the Zeugo player does spin. Let's have a look at another example. And then we'll look at 3 close changing of direction spins. Now these I always find the hardest and a good test of a player's base. But not all is as it seems. If we place a top spin player on our scales, you'll see he comes in at a gram. When we place the Zeugo player on the scales, he comes in at twice the weight, the same as the player he's based upon, the original Subbuteo heavyweight. There we go. So, when we look at the bases of the original heavyweight and our Doncaster Rovers Zeugo player, you'll see the Zeugo player's base is a wider circumference and has a shallower rake. So, the weight, although the same, is distributed differently. Here's our heavyweight, just a gentle touch, just so we can nudge the ball. When we go to our Zeugo player, we have to give him a little bit of a heavier flick and see how much further he knocks the ball. That is the difference in the weight, which does require a different flicking approach. So here we have him, finger at 5 o'clock on the base, a slight upward flick, and he's as predictable as the heavyweight. There you go, Scott. I hope that helps. First up on our Getting Started feature is Zeugo. And as many regular viewers will know, I am a big fan of the brand. Now these are the 2 box sets that I have, and the one that is laid out on the table is from this classic club edition. But just so you know, the contents of both boxes are exactly the same. It's just the presentation inside the box that is different, and I'll show you that now. So here we are, classic edition first. We have the instructions, a tray with blue and red teams, 2 keepers, 2 balls, 2 goals, and a pitch. Exactly the same in the other, only no tray, everything thrown in a little looser, and the teams in 2 boxes. And there are 2 balls in the bottom corner of the box. I think originally they arrived in a little bag. Right, primarily in this feature we're looking at people who are coming back to the game after a long break or thinking about starting up. If you're somebody who just wants to collect additional sets or just likes to look at these kind of things, that's great, but I'll assume you know a little bit already. But from my perspective, this is mainly for people coming back after a while. So, having had a look at the box, Zeugo players, you'll get 11 players and a keeper, which means you have a spare. So if you're so inclined, you can use the spare as a kicking goalkeeper. We like that. If you've been away from the game for a while, the bases will not be familiar. These are a lot shallower. I'll give you a close-up of these. So when we look at our Zeugo player base, you can see that it is shaped like a drafts piece and looks very different to our familiar heavyweight. A wider circumference and a much lower profile. When we look at the bases, you'll see straight away with the Subbuteo heavyweight, the flat part of the base that touches the pitch is a lot smaller than our Zeugo player, and the function of this is to enable him to slide, and the narrower base is to enable him to chip. Let's look at the slide first. Smooth as silk. And the chip, so much easier than with the heavyweight. So they're great fun to play with. What you're going to miss is if you remember playing with heavyweights or lightweights, plastic OO scale figures from the 60s right through to the end of the century, or even the flat card and celluloid players, the thing you're going to miss is the spinning feature of the game. Now for me, that's like losing an arm and it would put me off. But if you never engaged in the spinning and twisting and weaving of players, then you might actually like these. So have a little look at the demo and see what you think. Before we do that, a quick word about the pitch. I hope the lighting is doing it justice. It is a really lush, deep, dark green. Looks fantastic. It is some kind of nylon cotton mix. It's got a felt type finish. The downside of that, as with the Subbuteo nylon pitches from the 90s through to the end of the century, is that you have these full-length grooves in the weave. Now what happens is occasionally they'll catch an errant plastic protrusion, or if the bottom of the base isn't quite flush, or on the seam of the ball if it's not quite flush, they will catch it. And I'll give you a close-up in a moment so you can see what I mean. And that can be really irritating. The second thing that's irritating when you've got nylon in a pitch is that they are an absolute pain to get flat. Honestly, it would be easier to flatten the Alps. Now I have ironed this twice, and I've got a lot of pitches in the studio, and flat pitches are my pride and joy. So even though I've been left with these two full-length creases, like two tram lines, they're not actually interfering with the roll of the ball because they're quite soft creases. I just don't like to see them. I like my pitches to be as flat as ice. But there you go, what can you say? So if you were just putting this on a table or on top of a tablecloth, I think you'll get frustrated with it if you can't get it flat. The goals are robust one-piece plastic. The netting is a slightly larger scale to that I'm used to, and a larger scale than you'll see on most metal goals and old Subbuteo goals. So that's a matter of taste, but certainly to get you up and running, they're certainly good enough. And finally, the ball. This was a little bit disappointing. We did a feature on balls in our last episode. This ball is a bit light and I'm not entirely happy with the seam, but because we're doing this fairly, we'll start with this ball to show you why I don't particularly get on with it, then we'll swiftly change it. Okay, by way of a test, I'm going to rub this ball against the pitch. We'll hope that everything else stays quiet so you can hear it catch. Let the traffic go by. Can you hear that? That's resistance from the pitch against the seam of the ball. Now that on a nylon pitch is small enough to catch one of the threads and stop the ball dead. And it really isn't good enough, because for a game of football, the one thing you need is for the ball to roll. So there you are. Let's have a little play. I'll try and do things in close-up so you can see how things are behaving, see what they do, what they don't do, and hopefully you can make up your own mind, and then we'll do a little review at the finish. I very rarely do this on a product review, but I'm afraid demonstrating these Zeugo players on that box set pitch was driving me nuts. So everything is the same, except I have replaced the pitch with a bog standard Subbuteo base pitch from the 70s, and I have replaced the ball with a topspin ball. Otherwise the players and the goals are exactly the same. Now the reason I've done it will become apparent when we sum up, but my feeling is that the players, the Zeugo players, are too good to demonstrate them on that pitch. The ball was catching, the players were catching, I couldn't get the pitch flat. So to do a proper demonstration of the players and what you can do with them, I've switched the pitch and the ball. That's all. So let's have a quick look. The Zeugo box set. Well, what is our conclusion? Well, hopefully you'll have seen that the players are excellent. Quality build, inexpensive, and perform really well. Although we had to change the pitch to see that properly. I've never changed the pitch in a demo before, and I must say the pitch in the box set to me wasn't quite up to standard. Neither was the ball. The goals are a matter of taste. But why would you spend £40+ on a box set if you're going to change the pitch and the balls? So Zeugo teams, really good value. You can pick them up on auction sites, you can pick them up at Subbuteo World, you can pick them up at Astrobase for anything from £12 to £25. And you can get them in a vast array of team strips. So yes, we like it. Box set at £40? Probably not. Next up, we have Subbuteo. And again, if you're coming back to the game after a long break, this will not be the Subbuteo you remember. This game is manufactured and distributed by Netcam or Force 11 of Spain under license from Hasbro, who bought Waddington's, the owners of Subbuteo, in the mid-90s. Now in many ways it's the same. In the basic set you'll get two teams in red and blue, you'll get two goals, a ball and a pitch. And that's what we have here. What has changed over the decades is the nature of the player. As you can see here, the players are well finished. There's a nice ethnic spread. The numbers are beautifully finished on the players' backs. Beyond the very attractive finish is a new innovation. These players have bendy ankles. We'll all be familiar with the number of players we managed to break at the ankle joint all those years ago. Well, hopefully this new innovation cuts down that risk. So once again, we'll knock the ball around a bit, see what's what, see how we get on, and we'll do a review afterwards. So what can we conclude about this new Subbuteo box set? Well, on the face of it, it scores better than Zeugo. The pitch is not one I would use competitively, but it's certainly passable and it's relatively flat. The goals do the job quite well. The netting looks more like it's covering the goal rather than fitted to the goal, but I like the scale of it and it does the job. We like that. The player types are okay. They're slightly wider, flatter base makes them very tricky to spin. It's more a case of having to destabilise the player to get him to curl rather than a controlled spin. But they slide well, and as you've seen for yourself, they can knock the ball about. The ball, much like Zeugo, isn't much to write home about. Again, it's a bit light. The panel grooves are a little bit thick, but they're not expensive things to replace. So for the sake of a ball, we'd say yes. If you're looking to start up, you could do worse than pick up a Netcam Subbuteo set, again, which you'll find at the likes of Subbuteo World. You'll find them distributed by a company called Paul Le Monde. You'll find them on auction sites, and they'll cost you anything. Second-hand in good condition, from £12–15 right up to £35. Our final box set to review, like Zeugo, which was the first one we did, comes from Italy and is from Astrobase. Now, Astrobase have been around over 20 years now, and if you go to their website, you'll find they manufacture a wide range of products, going all the way back to a pioneer range of the big baggy shorts, 50s style players, right up to manufacturing modern pro bases, the sliding bases for the modern game now. So this is their heavyweight traditional game, and as the name suggests, the players are based upon the Subbuteo heavyweights from 67 to the late 70s. The first plus that I have to draw your attention to is the pitch. Unlike the other two, with this box, the pitch you get is fantastic. As you'll see from the touchline, it is approved by FISTFA, the association that handles global table football competitions. So it's wide, it's long, there's plenty of room, run-off room, and the finish on the pitch is great, and glory be, it lies straight. So we're very happy with that. The other things you'll notice from our very first review from Zeugo is the goals are the same, and so is the ball. I've given this one a good look, and the seams appear to be okay, although it is still a light ball. So, same as before, we'll have a little kickabout, then I'll meet you back here for a review afterwards. Subbuteo heavyweight on the left, Astrobase on the right, and when we tip them over, the Astrobase player has a smaller flat spot on his base. To summarise, Astrobase sits at the top of our pyramid of 3 box sets for one simple reason, and that is the pitch. This pitch is gorgeous, and bought separately, a base pitch of this quality would easily cost you £30–35. For a box set that retails at £38, that's fantastic value, and so for that reason, above and beyond anything else, this is my favourite out of the 3. The players and the ball are very light. As a traditional heavyweight player, it's taken me a short while to adapt to playing with these players that are light as a feather and the lighter ball. But I did do, and it all worked out fine, as you saw on the demo. Now with Subbuteo, the second one we did, that was also good and a good value start pack. Players are well made. As we noticed, they had the flexible ankles. They were finished well, pitch was good, so you could do a lot worse than get Subbuteo. All that let the Zeugo set down that we started with was the pitch. Zeugo make great products. Their players are fantastic, whether you use the flat base sliders that were in the box we use today, or whether you go for their heavyweights that we did the spinning test on at the beginning of the program. You can't go wrong with Zeugo players. Astrobase and Zeugo had the Zeugo goals, plastic robust goals. They both shared the Zeugo ball. So we don't want to knock Zeugo, but what let their box set down simply was that pitch. For me, it was unplayable and got me a little bit frustrated. So that's part of the story. The alternative, if you're coming back to the game and you want to capture your childhood memories and the joy you had in those days, then maybe what you want are the original items. You're going to want a base pitch. You might have a certain favourite goal, a World Cup goal. You might have heavyweight, lightweight teams that you recall playing with. So can we build an old Subbuteo set that works well for the same kind of money as these box sets? I think we should go and have a go. And so to our final boxed set. Now I'm going to come clean. There are many auction sites, collectors sites, retro sites, revival groups where you can purchase bits and pieces of Subbuteo. But what I did, because I have an account and I didn't want to spend forever doing it, I went on eBay for 2 days. And I've acquired this set. Now normally when I present this, I don't use AutoCue and I don't have notes, but I've kept a record of the prices. So the cotton pitch, which came as is, wrapped up in a polythene bag, cost me £8. So that could be from the 60s, late 60s, 70s. World Cup goals in quite a nice box, although I haven't opened them yet. £4.50, believe it or not. Set of mitre balls. These cost £4.20. I've just rattled it. That sounded strange. There's supposed to be 3 in the box, black, red and blue. I've managed to get 5. 5 for £4.20. I haven't tested them. We'll have a look at that in a minute. I'm beginning to feel like we've got a bargain here. And finally, I decided to get 2 lightweight teams. Heavyweight teams are going up in price fairly sharpish. I didn't want to mix and match, so I managed to get Celtic for $9.95 on a buy it now, with the box in pretty good condition. And they've got a price tag on, £3.25. So they'll be from the 80s. And Liverpool. The box is a little bit, got a little rip on the corner. Reference 619. And Liverpool cost me $11.99. So we'll call this for now the eBay box set. Cost me £38.64. So it's within the price bracket of the other 3 box sets we looked at, notwithstanding the fact I've rounded it up. The post and packaging cost me 20. So if we're going to be brutally honest, £58.64p. But I have the set from my childhood. So if that's what you'd prefer to get, you can do it at a reasonable price. I haven't opened anything. It's going to be embarrassing if the goals are broken. So I'm going to set it all up and we'll have a flashback to our childhood for £58.64p. Okay, so what ended up coming in the post? I have to say, everything is pretty good. I'm quite pleased. The pitch is a little threadbare. It has been well used. It's not stained. It's very thin and it's wearing a little bit in places. We'll see how that works in a minute. What did I pay for that? Pitch. I got the pitch for £8, so we're not complaining about that. It might be okay. The teams, I haven't checked for rattlers and bits and pieces, but they're all here. They've all got 2 arms, 2 legs and a head. We like that. The biggest surprise and nicest surprise was the World Cup goals are lovely. The net on the blue one might be a bit stretched, but nothing that can't be fixed. So I'm very happy with the goals, and I had a little look. We'll use the blue mitre ball, although we have 4 spares. That was a nice surprise as well. So let's have a little kickabout on our homemade box set and see what we've got. Love it, love it, love it. In the great scheme of things, you might be able to do better than the £38.60 or whatever it was I spent on these items. But I have to say, I'm really pleased with it. Everything's in good nick. All the sellers involved have been honest and truthful in their descriptions. Obviously, when you've been on eBay for a while, there are certain things that you know to look out for. But certainly if people have got a high enough score, their feedback is good, and you can generally tell from the quality of the description whether or not they know what they're talking about. So I feel I got what I paid for. I could have spent more on a pitch. The goals are a delight. They actually look new. Really pleased with those. The mitre ball's working fine, and the two lightweight teams are perfect. I've pretty much flicked every player and they all work rather well. So I have to say, I'm really pleased with this. But I want you to know this has come at a cost. When my wife finds out that I've spent over 50 quid on bits and pieces that I already own, I'm going to be homeless. So if you have a spare room, you know where to send an email. But there you have it, a homemade box set of old Subbuteo stuff for around about the same price as a new boxed one. Love it. It's time to put on your football thinking caps because it is Lockdown Edition's number 5 competition. This will run on a similar format to the one in our last programme. So in front of me, you can see 4 teams. For me, we're looking right to left. For you, it'll be left to right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. What I would like you to tell me, if you can please, is which team will be number 5 in this sequence. Which team will be in number 5 position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I could have your entries in, please, over the next 7 days to the usual address. Please don't put the answers anywhere else, certainly not in the comments section under the video, because if you do, unfortunately, I have to delete it and your entry won't be included. Then we will put all of the successful answers into our pinball machine as usual, and the winner will receive this untouched, immaculate Subbuteo box set. It's similar to the one I demonstrated earlier in the programme, but this one is untouched and from my personal collection. And we'll just take a close-up of it now so you can see what you'll be winning. Under the lid, you'll have 2 teams in red and blue, 2 goals, a ball and a pitch. All you need to get up to some Subbuteo mischief. So good luck with that. I expect to see correct answers in my inbox before this program's even finished, because a lot of you are getting quicker and quicker off the mark. So there you have it. Let me know which team is 5th in this sequence, and we'll pull the winner out of the pinball machine in our next edition. In recent editions of Table Football Monthly, there has been a very heavy bias towards Subbuteo, which is fine and dandy because most of us are big fans of the game. But one of the key features of this programme is we like to look at as many alternative tabletop football games as we can, particularly since I have been working alongside Paul Woosley at oldfootballgames.co.uk. Here are 3 examples that I am desperate to get onto the programme. We have World Soccer Here from the early 70s, Super Soccer Here, endorsed by Sir Bobby Charlton, and Tomy Super Cup Football, which so many of you have asked to see reviewed. So come what may, we are putting all of these into our next edition. So do watch out for that because it promises to be quite an eventful programme, and Paul has kindly put up a prize for that programme as well. So in our next edition, we'll be looking at some of the alternative options for a bit of tabletop footy action. So that about wraps it up for this month. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
I got the World Cup edition back in '72. Man, I was king of the hill. Those were the days. And the guys over and we played all day. I made the final, but I lost 2-0. And those were the days. Those were the days. Tired of being a grown-up, wanna throw it away. I said, Smith. jiffy, let's set up and play. Danielle came along, she was cool, she was blonde. She said everything will be okay. These are the days.